All right, Fact Check This Podcast, episode 20. Today I am joined by my buddy Cory Durst. Cory is one of the fans of the Peddling Fiction podcast, and we interact in the group and on Facebook a lot, and I think we share a lot of very similar views on a lot of the way the government just completely fucking sucks, and the way kind of the libertarian ideals fix a lot of those problems. So I'm going to throw it over to Cory and let him introduce himself and tell a little bit about himself, how he got into libertarianism and all of that fun stuff. And then we'll kind of go from there. So Cory, take it away.
What's up, man? I am Cory. I am from the middle of South Carolina, right in the Midlands, a little small town, Batesburg. Population probably like 6,000, 6,500, very small town. Been here all my life. I lived in Myrtle Beach for about 9 months. Outside of that, been very much a part of the small town life. And I don't know, probably up until about 7 or 8 years ago, my view definitely fell more toward the conservative side. Would categorize myself as a Republican. I was thinking about it prior to coming here. I don't think any of my family at all would be what you call left-leaning. So for a long time, even get that aspect of wasn't even able to pry a mind on that side of thinking, even in a rational manner. It was always almost demonized, And then, I don't know, early into Obama's second term, early in Obama's second term is when I had some of my friends start to point out to me about the drone strikes. And that's what really started spiking my interest more toward, like, why are we doing this? Why is it okay? Because prior to that, I had been an advocate. I remember when I turned 18 and could vote, voting for Bush, he's going to protect us, and, we're going to freaking police the world or whatever. I don't know what I thought, but it was like a strong armed force was what needed to be done. And the older I got, like I say, once, especially the drone strikes, it seemed so helpless to me, is when started looking more into different political views, and most of my friends that I had at that time that were left-leaning were very radical. Wouldn't say radical, especially for South Carolina here. They were very left, and so it was hard for them to portray the compassion of their party to me, again, through essentially strong arm taxes. At that point was what I saw. But around about that time was when I discovered the Libertarian Party, Ron Paul, and didn't really form a general disdain or just sheer out loathingness of the government up until about 3 or 4 years ago. And the more I try to seek out news outlets, active journalism, if you can find journalism still in this day, that's reporting facts, the more red pill I get against them. And I definitely think that the Libertarian Party would be the best way to reroute whatever the hell the experiment we got going now.
Most definitely. And so I've talked about it several times myself with kind of my journey into libertarianism, but the being an active member of campaigning for George W. Bush for his second term in 2004, and coming out of 9/11 and thinking that they were doing the right thing because of 9/11 with some of the stuff, the wars that got started in the Middle East, and then later on realizing that it wasn't wars that got started, and it really wasn't about 9/11, it was a continuation of things that the government had been doing all along, and it was just like unending, and all the excuses that they had come up with for why they were going back into Iraq, and like none of it made any sense. And the more that kind of stuff just kept going, and more it pushed me away from the Republican Party and start to see, what a war hawk party it really was. And then like you said, with Obama and the drone strikes and everything else, like the more you look at the Democrats, they're absolutely no better. So, so what is the alternative? And then you've got the Libertarian Party that is anti-war, period. So it's it's a logical progression, especially for people like us that don't think the war thing is a good thing at all, especially looking at the way it's destabilized the Middle East and just everything negative that comes out of it.
And what I can't understand, and I admittedly was blissfully ignorant for quite some time. But then again, I really wasn't super political for quite some time as well. But nonetheless, like, it's like somebody brings you a shit sandwich and they're like, you can eat the shit sandwich, or here's like, nourishment. And it's like, well, I've always ate the shit sandwich. Why would I even look into the nourishment? I don't understand just Republicans and Democrats alike when you bring them cold hard facts and like, so tell me what you believe in as a Democrat. And they're like, well, I think we should take care of everybody. And, we are, everybody's, a blanketed statement. And you point out how libertarianism fits into that at like a 93 percentile, and likewise on this side. And it's just like, no, I'm not trying to hear that.
Yeah, it's insane. Or if you can even get them to present an argument for what they support about their party that doesn't just exclusively include everything they hate about the other party. Like, if you can't sell me on why your party is the one I should be voting for, or your candidate's the one I should be voting for, like, don't tell me why the other guy is so bad that I should vote for your equally bad guy. Like, it's not a working argument to bring forward. And it feels like they don't even understand the logical or the illogicalness of that.
Well, it just makes me wonder just how out of touch every person is with freaking reality, especially the ones that have been chosen to govern.
Indeed. And so the big thing that you and I were going to talk about today, and speaking of the out of touch with the reality from those who are governing, you were in South Carolina, which, as we had talked about before we started recording, doesn't even have medical marijuana. And then I'm in Indiana, where marijuana laws have, I believe we have CBD and some extent of medical marijuana, but then they've also after passing some of that, went in the wrong direction with a lot of it because they are so out of touch and don't understand what they're doing. The politicians, that once they started to pass some of that stuff, they then started to go back in the other direction because they didn't realize what they were doing, and it's just so insane. But talk a little bit about that, on your position on that, and kind of where you get that position on the medical marijuana and some of the other stuff that's out there on maybe not on the market per se in South Carolina, but stuff that has definitely been proven to be very beneficial, but for whatever reason, especially at the federal level and the majority of the state levels, are still illegal, or at least criminal in most ways.
Yeah. And I heard, it was Henry talking about it one and on Lions of Liberty the other day. And I didn't realize just how much of a blunder that was, just simply by not realizing that hemp produces flour. Like, simply by not taking a look at the one plant that you're trying to pass a law on. Oh shit, it does. Yeah, it looks like pot. No, never mind. Yeah, no, that blew my mind how you just walked that back. And you know, even still, that's more progressive, I guess you would, than what we have here. I think the CBD is legal here, and I want to say I saw where it's some type of extract that they're getting out of the cannabis, like and don't quote me on this. It's like a omega 8, THC 8, or something like this, to where it's some different level or different cannabinoid. I'm not sure of the exact science.
William Henry was talking about that on Lines of Liberty too. So it's
I
basically
think we fall under one of the 42 that is. But what was that now?
Yeah, so basically it's like just a step down from what is the level that is federally considered illegal. So there are ways that they can extract it and it's still technically legal, which is the best kind. As long as you're technically legal, then you're not illegal.
You got it. That's the best guy. There you go. Yeah, no, it doesn't seem to be it doesn't seem to be getting much better here, you know, quickly at all. Fairly red dominated state, and it is they seem to be against it the most out of them all right now. But no, I have so I started smoking pot a long time ago, probably at like 16, tried it the first time, you know, and never sought or needed a real reason outside of recreational use for quite some time, and then stopped for job purposes, because, and that's what I've tried to, and I think that's what that's going to encompass in the MORE Act. I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. I still don't think that even if they make it recreationally legal in the state, I don't think that your insurance company or your workforce insurance will cover it as far as like a workman's comp issue, you know, because it stays in the system for 30 days. You know, they can give you a breathalyzer test or a blood test and tell your exact levels of alcohol. So if you could get shithoused the night before, and the next day by lunch, it's much out of your system. They pop you with a drug test for pot, for piss, and you don't know from 1 day to 30 days if it's in your system. So I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. I still don't think it's going to be acceptable for many job purposes, you know.
Yeah, that will be an interesting side of it, because it could still, like you said, for the insurance purposes, there could still be a workforce deterrent for even for doing it recreationally. So that will be interesting. I think
Carolina just as.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was saying South Carolina, just as well as Indiana, is a right to work state. So
right, and that makes it tricky. I do think that if we could get to a point federally where it was at the very least decriminalized, if not totally legalized, that those issues would long-term work themselves out. There would be a good balance of what is acceptable, how do we manage the testing on it, stuff like that would eventually come into play. But yeah, especially even if tomorrow the Senate, or they just came out and straight up said it is fully legalized, period, no more anything, there would still be a significant transition period where the market kind of figures out how to adjust for that.
Absolutely. And, you know, and I'm a proponent for it on a recreational level all across. And that's not even to even start on the medical benefits, which I don't understand how we can create a wonderful vaccine in such a small amount of time here in 2020, and we can't get better funding or research into marijuana to look at how it is and how it can help people. There's video after video on YouTube of people with seizures, people with cancer, people. I mean, and I think it was Dave Chappelle made a joke about it one time, how easy it was to get a pot card when they first came out. Guys like, oh, I'm having stroke symptoms. He's like, nah, man. How about your appetite? You got a fairly good appetite. It it helps with so many things to where I don't even understand why we're still considering it a drug.
Right, especially when you look at so like you were saying, epilepsy and seizures. Golly, what else is it? It was man, anxiety, depression, stress, like so many of those, both physical and, well, most of it is neurological, like epilepsy, seizures, that kind of stuff. It's it's things that aren't firing right in the brain, and it's causing the body to uh, malfunction effectively. And the way that this stuff actually like helps these psychological, you know, neurological conditions to help people, either get in a better place mentally, or just to not have the misfiring that is causing those malfunctions. Like, and then there is a ton of research out there, and for whatever reason the government just chooses to ignore all of that and instead push pills and pharmaceuticals. And I know you've got plenty to talk about on that topic, so why don't you go
Oh
ahead and
yeah,
jump
no,
in.
and that's what I was discussing. It's that's the racket of it. Um, what was it? Was it last week that the UN decided to no longer call cannabis a drug?
Is that right? I missed that.
I think so. Maybe last week. I'm not sure. Maybe this last week. Um, yeah, but the pharmaceuticals, it's pathetic. It's man, from kids getting put on freaking ADHD medicine, to our active duty military soldiers who have gone and fought in senseless wars, taking the lives of innocent people, come back here and try to adjust, and they're fed a cocktail of sedatives, and just it's like a guinea pig system. I had a buddy of mine, and this went back, we were friends all the way back to in a young age, middle school. And like I say, whenever I was pro Bush and just gun or hardcore Republican, with not an idea of what any of it meant, except that we were going to go avenge people and be the police or whatnot. He was signing up for the military to go and avenge these people. I just voted for him to go. He made the choice to go. Did a couple tours in Iraq, and he got, and it was during a second tour, he got into some active duty over there. And for about 3 weeks, they saw some pretty tragic events unfold. So he comes back and he's trying to, get everything, and he was pretty much compartmentalizing everything. He was seeing a shrink and was going to the VA. The VA had him on like 4 or 5 different pills a day, benzos. At one point in time, he was taking 3 ketamine chewables a day. And this was like while at work. They would tell him to go to his car for 15 minutes. It would like induce some type of trip, he said, and would calm his nerves. And all this time, here's these prescriptions, here's these. No, you cannot smoke pot. And he did that. I think he said he tried all different elixirs. from the doctors, of course, for about a 6 to 9 month period. And it wasn't long after that, it was before Christmas, that his wife came out and caught him on the porch with a pistol in his mouth. And he couldn't deal with it anymore. That day he got off of the prescriptions and he started treating with CBD, strictly CBD. Still had a very tough time. Didn't normalize back into, just normal life for a while after that. But the CBD was actively helping him. He was taking different strains of it for different times of the day, taking it for different things. He went from the CBD and, I think he himself was starting to get a bit red pilled and was like, the people that are supposed to be taking care of me, put me on all this shit, didn't care about the things that I had to tell them, to the point to where I had no other option. He's starting to come around to the fact that maybe Uncle Sam and Big Brother ain't the best guy. So he's like, well, the CBD's doing what it's supposed to. I'm going to try the THC. He went to the THC, and after that, he has never touched another pill after the THC. Now, I will say something that he found worked in conjunction with the THC that a lot of people around here don't talk about is psilocybin, which, if they are talking about it around here, they're talking about some magic mushroom. But he began experimenting and growing himself psilocybin cubensis, which is just a strain of fungus. It's a mushroom. And he began microdosing it to start with, taking a very small amount every 3 days. And he said that helped more on the psychological side of things, as far as he said to me it was more like the best antidepressant he had ever had. He said the weed always made him happy. And it always makes me grin too. It doesn't, he said it doesn't touch the benefits of what the psilocybin has done. And I think he's really trying to get into to avenues and find where he can open this up to more experimental trials, as opposed to all these cocktails of pills.
So on that topic, Michael Heiss, who is the founder of the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus, which I talk about way too much probably, but Michael Heiss actually led an initiative. I think it was in Washington, D.C., or if not in D.C., it was in Maryland, like they're close by, but to get mushrooms legalized or at least decriminalized. I can't remember. I'd have to look. But anyway, they put together a proposition and actually got it passed. So that might be something to look into, because there is a lot of research that's been done on that stuff as well, that's starting to very slowly but surely get more attention. It's definitely not as mainstream as marijuana legalization and decriminalization has been, but it is starting to get some attention. Like, there are people out there who are talking about it.
I just don't understand, all these two things that we've talked about come from the ground. If we want to, protect our earth and do things that nature, harvest more, be more natural. In my opinion, God put them here for us. You know what I mean? Everybody's opinion might not fit the same as I do. But why not explore the avenue? Why not entertain the thought?
Right. And that's, what chemicals and just god awful shit are going into these prescription medications that they're basically pigeonholing people into having to take to treat this stuff, when there is something natural and organic available as an alternative that is even more effective without poisoning yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I why not try it? That's what I can't get through. Outside of the bottom line dollar, which seems to be what they seem to be after. Can't profit if they can't continue to profit off of it being illegal, you know.
Well, that's the war machine that is the war on drugs, that with being able to maximize profits through a for-profit prison system, and by keeping those prisons full, they just rake in the dollars off of that stuff. I mean, it all gets back to the government's going to find any way it can to leverage a nickel off of everything that we do, or everything that they say we can't do, and they're not going to have any incentive to change that as long as they can continue to make money off of it. And like you said, I mean, being able to grow psilocybin and cannabis yourself, yeah, you remove the middleman, that you don't have to go through them anymore to get your medical treatment, really.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it just the benefits much more outweigh any of the risk involved with either one of them. And I mean, proven benefits.
Right. That's the big thing, is for as much as 2020 has been the trust the science year, they still don't want to look at the actual science that's involved with cannabis and psilocybin and all of these naturally occurring things that there's plenty of research that's been done, and they just won't look at it. And there's plenty of research that's been done that shows that the pharmaceuticals, that all these manufactured drugs, are terrible for people, just absolutely terrible.
Yeah, it's just I don't know if it's just not a loud enough voice telling this to people. There's not the outlet there. I don't know. Everything's so propagandized to where it makes it difficult to talk to your neighbor, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So I did have one other thing that I thought of that I wanted to hit on with you for this episode, since you are in South Carolina, and South Carolina has, at least in the past, been very strongly secessionary. And here, as of late, there's been a lot of talk of secession with the way the election was going. Regardless of which way it went, there was talk of that. And the state of Texas right now has some legislature, or I'm not sure if there's some stuff in the works in Texas to become an independent nation of their own and to secede from the United States. What are your thoughts on that, with being from South Carolina, where I don't know if it wasn't real recently, but within, the last decade, South Carolina has kicked this idea around a couple times as well. So what do you think about secession, and how you think all this is going to go forward with, regardless of who ultimately ends up getting sworn into the presidency in January? Like, shit's about to hit the fan. So what do you think about all of that?
I think you see a lot of pump fakes being thrown whenever that word get kicked around. The idea sounds good. Hey, fuck you, I won't do what you told me. But logically speaking, I don't see it happening. I don't see Texas being able to pull it off. It's such a skilless word these days, secession, secessionists, sedition. It's I'm not opposed to the idea of like-minded states founding a better union within the walls of the United States of America. I don't see it happening simply because big government. I don't think, God, how many military bases do we have just in the United States? You know, I think I saw something about where we have 900 bases across 124 countries. So you just figure what we have inside the United States, how many inside of Texas alone, let alone their natural resources that they bring to the table on the whole for the country. I don't see Big Brother allowing us to take that bit of income from him. I don't, I don't know, unless old Trump daddy goes to Mar-a-Lago, sets up a new Oval Office, and just creates command of his own army. I don't see something like that logically playing out. I don't think that the idea of well-formed militias couldn't hold any given size area. I mean, you look at freaking Chaz or Chop or whatever those guys are, and I mean, low key, man, hats off to those guys. I don't know, but I just don't see it being able to actively play out in a way without serious bloodshed, and us still remain here on this land. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. I definitely understand. I guess the only thing that makes me think that it could potentially go in the other direction, that some secessionary activity could get legitimate movement in the direction of it actually happening, is a lot of these sheriffs in very blue parts of the country saying that they will not enforce government mandates. If the bluest parts of the country, New York and California, have sheriff's departments that are saying they are not going to enforce the bullshit that their governors are telling them to, that's encouraging, because it means that there are probably a lot of other sheriffs and also just general military members who also have absolutely no interest in taking up orders from the government if it involves shutting down a militia or doing something that would more or less result in Civil War II. So
I agree wholeheartedly there. I definitely, because, I mean, and it took balls for a lot of those guys to come out and just freewheelingly out of nowhere. Hey, look, no, this isn't how we're going to do it. I'm not going to enforce this. Whenever I remember back when Beto, the catchphrase "Hell yeah, we're coming for your guns," and you had sheriff's deputies talking about they would deputize citizens in order for them to not have their guns taken. But now you look on what municipality level were you seeing these? Are you seeing county guys? Are you seeing town officials? You're definitely not seeing any head state officials coming out saying it, and again, to your point, for everyone that did come out, at least 3 of them were thinking it and probably would have stood for those same ideals, but was just not going to throw their neck on the chopping block for it, unless it came down to it. But I still just think with the size of the National Guard, and I mean, hey man, the way it looks, you got President-elect Biden about to get it, like he's going to be the commander, but for how long? I don't know how heavy his hand would be at pulling the National Guard to his disposal, but the look in Kamala's eye gives me nightmares, I'll tell you that.
I think there would be a lot of refusal to take up the order if she was the one giving it. I think if it did come to that, there would be a higher level of reception to Biden giving that than Kamala. And that's
well, I would love to hope so anyway, for the hope of liberty. I'm just going by past history and what I'm seeing of just trying to talk freaking common sense into people.
well, hopefully if it does come to it, it doesn't end up being anything exceptionally bloody. I definitely don't want to see a world or a Civil War II, but at the same time, if it's going to happen, I'd rather it happen when I'm of age to be an active participant and shield my children from it, as opposed to me be too old to do anything about it and they be the ones bearing the brunt of it. Like, we're the ones who screwed this up. We need to be the ones that fix it.
Absolutely. And I think I think Tim Pool was saying the other day, this is fifth generational warfare. It's propagandized, and the more time we can spend talking to somebody that's different minded than us, the better off we're going to be. Because at the end of the day, they might not see my point, but we'll both realize that we more got in common than we don't. And it's not us that we're against, it's them.
Definitely. It's funny you said that. So I've started doing some of these clips for Buck Johnson and the Death to Tyrants podcast. And I pulled together a clip the other day from an interview he did with a guy, Pedro Gonzalez, who had said that, no, it wasn't Pedro. It was Michael Rectenwald. I get all these. I listen to too many podcasts. My wife will attest to that. That Michael Rectenwald, he had said that, what we need to do is we need to get our voices out there and find alternative paths to getting our voices out there. But at the same time, we can't silo ourselves off where that we just exist in these echo chambers where the only things that we're hearing are what we're saying to each other, and nobody outside of our sphere is hearing this stuff, because then we're just doing the mainstream media and the duopoly's job for them by effectively shutting ourselves up. So yeah, that's definitely good stuff. We definitely need to get out there and talk to people, and on both sides of it, have conversations with people you don't agree with and find that common middle ground, because I bet you a lot more people have things in common with us than they've got more in common with us than they've got in opposition to us.
Absolutely.
Well, you got anything else you want to talk about?
No, I got some steaks marinating.
Oh, nice.
Gonna go ahead and enjoy the rest of my evening, get ready to go do the slave thing all again that tomorrow. So I appreciate you having me on here. Hopefully people can gain something and think about the psilocybin and marijuana. Everybody can benefit from a little psilocybin, no matter who you are. Try it. Definitely.
And I will remind me later. I'll get you some information on the stuff that Michael Heiss has been working on with the Mises Caucus and legalization on that stuff, because it is they are doing a lot of really good work in that direction. So whether or not it's something South Carolina is ready for, there is at least some evidence that some parts of the country are starting to open up to it. So eventually it might work its way there.
Amen to that.
Well, that's the end of today's episode. I am out of town the rest of the week, so there will not be another episode this week. I will catch y'all next week. And in the meantime, have a good one. Thank ya.